5, it's 11 o'clock, and this is our work session. It is in preparation for our recess meeting in February, on February the 17th, will be at 5:30, downstairs in the same building. So I'll call the work session to order, and we have a couple of items on the agenda prior to taking up the actual agenda items, and the first one is a presentation of the Parks Master Plan update. And that's Cole and Evan Eliff, is that right?
That's right.
Correct?
Fifth
Yes,
person
thank
ever.
you so much. From Sports Facilities, if y'all recall, they were commissioned to do an update on our Parks Master Plan. It has been, it will be 10 years since we did the last one. And so they have a presentation, I believe, that you'll be making, and I sent a draft to you guys, so hopefully everybody's had a chance to take a look at it and see. So I will give the floor to you.
Well, thank you very much. As I share my screen here, I want to first thank you for your time. Second, I want to be really respectful of your time. So with what I am, let me see, there we go. So with what I'm going to present today, there's a lot of information to cover, and I'm going to try to do it in about 15 minutes. So the majority of this is going to stay at a 10,000 foot level, except for the part that goes to 30,000 feet. But we will have some time at the end. So when we think about a 10-year plan, we think about three things: vision, context, and future-facing framework. And so that's really where we structured this process and this report. Now, what you have in front of you, or what you have seen, is a draft. Our goal is to solicit feedback, make any updates, and then finalize it for the city. So we'll start with the objectives for the study itself. It was really clear you all have had a successful previous 10-year parks plan. This is a recreation plan, also 10-year facing. And the city has an incredible history of achieving its goals, so we wanted to make sure that we had great structure, framework, and flexibility within the goals. So 10-year plan to provide current and future officials with the right information to make the right decisions. Had to be a collaborative process. Lots of stakeholders. Of course, we engaged the residents. We've got staff, partners, etc., that were all involved. And ultimately, we are really good at integrating data and the insights that can be driven from data, as well as best practices in the industry. As you know, we operate here. We also operate in about 104 other communities across the country. And so not just what works here, but what we're seeing in terms of trends, how that will come into focus for you, and what we can capitalize on for your future. And finally, as I mentioned, really providing a simple, easy to use, repeatable, flexible framework for future decision making. So the 10-year goals really drove this entire project, and they evolved over time. The first 3 years we consider the short-term goals, and because of the fact that the city has made tremendous investments in recreation recently and is not on the schedule to make any major investments from a capital perspective in the next few years, we wanted to make sure that we were prioritizing those low-cost investments to maintain and improve the guest experience as well as your assets. Program-based recreation, really important. You can do a lot more by programming more and providing more services in the same space you have. And then, of course, sports tourism has really, especially with Cornerstone, been very successful here, and want to continue on that momentum and building that. As we get into the midterm goals, we consider that to be 4 to 7 years, really looking at partnerships, whether that's public, private, institutional, nonprofit, but identifying any partners that can come into the ecosystem and support. Also, you have such a high-performing Parks and Recreation agency. No one in the state of Mississippi, no agency in Mississippi is CAPRA accredited right now. CAPRA is sort of the national standards for readiness, service delivery, etc. And so we think that's a great goal, to get yourself aligned and ready to submit, and it's saleable and marketable from a destination standpoint for residents thinking about moving here, and for your current residents who we want them and their families to stay here. And finally, to be one of the top destinations in Mississippi, one of the top communities in Mississippi for recreation, activity, and health. And then as we get out to the 8 and 10-year plan, structure, framework for what we think might make sense today, but really future casting what the best potential facilities would be, and of course those will require more evaluation as we get into that. But wanted to set all of that up. Here's where I go to 30,000 feet. Just some context for participation rates and industry trends. We look at a wide variety of programs, of activities, of assets across the board. Some of them you have the ability to serve right now. Others we looked at that didn't make the list, like ICE, because that is not going to be the best investment here for the city, and you don't currently have any ICE. So a pretty good blend throughout the report. And then when we look at some of the primary goals, including the interest and the investment in sports tourism, understanding what potential assets would be most flexible and most valuable from that lens to bring in the most number of people. So we go all the way out to a 240-minute, 4-hour drive time radius, and the most flexible, most programmable space for tournaments and events in this market would be indoor court-based facility with almost 1.9 million potential participants within a 4-hour drive time. When we look at outdoor assets, multi-purpose field and sport activity, about half of that, 861,000 potential participants within the regional drive time. And then when we look at diamond fields, where we're already doing a tremendous number of tournaments, events, and local programs, about 680,000 between baseball and softball. So those do tier sort of in the future recommendations that you'll see here. Activity trends, most of these reports come out every 2 years, so 24 and the next one will be this year. So we'll have the 24 and 25 data. What's really important from this is just a couple things that I'll touch on high level. If we were to go back to 10 years before this, you would have seen activity rates falling in the country. And we started to see a rebound, and then the pandemic hit. And so no one really knew what was going to happen through the pandemic. Obviously, a lot of formal programmed and assets, especially on the indoor side, shut down for a year and a half, 2 years in some of the states across the country. But as a result of people also being out of work, out of school, we did see actually an increase in activity through the pandemic, and that has continued to climb, where we have more active people in the country than ever before. If you look at some of the key areas that we look at in terms of just organizing how people participate, team sports took a huge hit in 2020 when practices were canceled and facilities were down and no tournaments were happening and leagues were gone and whatnot. But it has rebounded since then and is at the highest point ever from a team sports participation. Individual sports did take a dive, probably more than anything else. Individual sports being skateboarding, BMXing, etc., and started to climb back up in 2023. We've seen pretty steady but small levels of growth in individual sports, so team sports continue to lead the way. When we think about fitness, they actually, you could arguably benefit from the pandemic, because the response for fitness and fitness activities was, let's get outside more, let's have hybrid or remote programs. You saw, cycling on Zoom, basically, through things like Peloton, and those became very popular. And then finally, racket sports, consistent growth even through the pandemic, and as you would probably imagine, a lot of the racket sports growth is directly tied to
Pickleball.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh boy, I get an A.
Perfect. You've probably also answered 16 phone calls this week. And then from the sports tourism industry, of course, it was devastated in the pandemic, but it has rebounded mightily. In fact, sports tourism in many ways led the rebound from the pandemic, because people have demonstrated time and time again they want to spend on their kids and on recreation and on tournaments that they can turn into vacations as well. And so as soon as facilities open, you see a huge spike, a recovery, and now we're projecting that this is more than an $85 million industry by the end of this year. A billion, excuse
How
me.
long will it be before you get 24, 25 data? That's showing 23.
It comes out in 26, and it has 24 and 25.
So
The 24 report is the year before, so.
Okay, so that's the lead, okay.
This data actually, interestingly, this comes from an organization that has had monumental shifts, and they didn't actually deliver a report when we thought they were in 25, going to in 25. So we'll see what they do in the future. So levels of service, program gaps analysis, this really tells us, based on your community against peer communities, these are similarly sized communities, how many assets should you have, where are your surpluses, where are your deficits or your gaps. really not very many in terms of gaps. When you think about parks, you do have a good number of parks. I think walkability and access is a key portion of how we can make better use of the parks that you do have. From a pool perspective, an indoor pool, you don't have one, but that is not really a high priority right now in this community. Senior center, you offer a lot of senior programs. You don't have to have a dedicated space for that. So when we look at the levels of service and program gaps, there's nothing that really sticks out to us as you must address this because you're at a massive deficit. When you combine the actual physical facilities and the programs that are being offered, with the exception of ICE, because it doesn't exist here, it's a big blank spot. But almost every other program and activity that we expect to be offered is offered here. Now, much of that is run through the city, but obviously the private providers or nonprofit providers, your program partners, offer a lot of activities as well at your facilities and in partnership with the city and Parks and Recreation. So big investment of time into stakeholder and community input. We not only met with many folks, had face-to-face interviews and follow-up interviews with key stakeholders, but then we delivered an online survey through a custom project website that was available through a hyperlink as well as a QR code so people could access it as easily as possible. And I will just point out some of the key findings from the community input. Despite the fact that you have a great set of assets and a great set of programs, this community is hungry for recreation. And so when we ask the first question, maybe the most important question, do you think the city of Starkville currently offers adequate sports and recreation amenities? Even though you've got great amenities, the majority of the people who responded, about 65%, said, actually, no, we need more. We want more. We want to be active. We want to have better opportunities to recreate. So as we go down the path, we start looking at, okay, but who's responding? So really great data here. The respondent age primarily coming from your current parents of kids, the people in the ages of 35 to 44, as well as some of the younger parents, representing a great spread of ages across the household. So one person responds, but they represent their household. So we ask them, who are they representing? And lots of youth representation here. Of course, the people who were responding have the highest rate because pretty much all of them have that component. When we asked about indoor facilities, the number one most demanded indoor facility was indoor aquatics, followed by indoor courts, closely by indoor courts, multi-purpose space, and then additional fitness space. On the outdoor side, walking and running trails came as the number one most valuable outdoor recreation asset, followed by outdoor multi-purpose fields, and even baseball and softball fields where we've got Cornerstone, which is a great asset with a lot of fields, still remained high. So great local participation, local interest in both indoor and outdoor. Now, these are also people who are frequent users, so we got the right people who are already participating in recreation here, most of them participating at least a few times a week from the respondent set. And then when we asked, do you participate in a league or program? So this is structured, right? If they're walking on a path, they might have said no. But if they're registered for a baseball program, they say yes. So more than half of the people, about 55% of the people that were respondents to the survey said yes. Now, here's where we start talking about walkability, accessibility, trails, potential partnerships with the county, Rails to Trails programs, et cetera, driven by this. People really want walkability to parks and outdoor recreation space. It came up as by far kind of a leading indicator that it is very important to the majority of your communities. McKee Park with the renovations had some downtime, but when we looked at where people are currently visiting parks, and remember most people are doing something in the recreation world a couple of times a week from this, majority of them at McKee Park, Cornerstone second, Starkville Sportsplex third. So those are the primary respondents of our survey. And then the most unique part of what we deliver for the survey is this interactive process where you have 10 points, and you can put all 10 into one bucket, you could put one into 10 different buckets, or you could spread them out as you see fit. And where the funded responses came back was top, as we said before, but this puts a little more pointed perspective on it, was recreation aquatics, whether that's indoor or outdoor, additional recreation programming. Just to give you a quick sense of why there are different colors for each of these bars, there is the dark blue on the left. It says minimum. That means if they only put one of their 10 points into that, they gave it a minimum score. If they put all 10 into one bucket, it's that sort of teal on the end, or greenish, whatever that is, seafoam. We'll call it seafoam. Turquoise on the end. What we look for is not having a huge spike in any of these categories. That means that really well self-organized groups stack the ballot box. And while yes, people did, more people put all 10 of their points into recreation aquatics, not to a point where we are worried about the significance of this data. It really was well supported across most of the folks. So we take all of that information, that context, to develop an action plan. As I mentioned, the goals evolved over time, and so you'll see a lot of alignment between the goals and the action plan and some repeat information. But we have 5 primary objectives, and we've given real structure to these inside the report. But maintaining assets and improving quality as your number one short-term goal, improving programs, marketing, branding, and creating a community feedback loop. Of course, walkability, trails, and preparing for the potential of a Rails to Trails project, and then continuing the sports tourism momentum. We also gave some tools within that, very basic breakdown of what the daily and ongoing preventative maintenance sort of workflow looks like, as well as that feedback loop in terms of where you get information from your community, how you review and respond to that, what actions you take, and then how you report back and let the community know that you're listening. So really simple model, but very easy to implement, and of course, this is a part of what's going on here already, but could certainly be expanded as we go into the future. For the midterm goals, the 4 to 7 year, building partnerships, expanding funding capacity and readiness, pursuing CAPRA, and positioning Starkville as a leading recreation provider within the state. From a partnerships perspective, we drive a ton of partnerships across our venues and our communities. Almost every one of our indoor facilities, as an example, has a partnership with a medical service provider, whether that's dedicated space. We've got 25,000 square foot hospitals integrated into some of our facilities, all the way through just programmatic and in-kind services. When we run a tournament, they will provide free on-site first responders, and everything in between. Importantly, often capital and often sponsorship. And so as we go into the future of partnerships, that needs to be part of the conversation. How can we get things funded? And then from CAPRA, we outlined the process for CAPRA. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of administrative paperwork to get CAPRA certified. It's one of the reasons that a lot of communities don't actually go through the process successfully, because it is very detailed. But if that's something you want to do, we can absolutely help. And if it's something that you don't want to go for certification, there are still great elements and components of what's in the CAPRA accreditation process that we should highlight and strive to achieve. Similar to like LEED certification for building, right? Do you want to pay for the full LEED certification, or do you want to take the most important, most valuable pieces of LEED, not pay for the certification, not do all the extras, but focus in on the best practices?
Is there like an executive summary bullet point of the things that are required for CAPRA?
There is. It's not in the report, but we can get that to you. We're actually just helping finish CAPRA accreditation renewal for one of our clients, and so we can send all the most recent information.
Okay, thank you.
When we get out to 8 to 10 years, really this is about vision casting, expectations, but it's also going to be about preparing for those partnerships and the money that can come in. Just so you're aware, when we're talking about new assets being developed, especially the sports tourism capable assets like we've recommended in options 1 and 2 here, 85% of the facilities that we see developed have a public-private partnership of significance. And so private sector, public partnerships, public-private partnerships, institutional partnerships, they all exist within this ecosystem. And so we wanted to first identify how we might evaluate the most valuable assets. So we created this structure. It's called our asset prioritization structure. And we've sort of repeated that for you. But as we went through currently, with a blend of community input, stakeholder input, cost to build, cost to maintain, long-term cost of ownership, potential for financial sustainability, potential for economic impact. All of those factors weigh in to one comprehensive analysis that allows us to rank and prioritize the most important assets to focus on. And so right now, in an indoor court facility, if you had the money and you were saying, what should we put it in? We'd tell you indoor court facility. That could change over time. Over the next 8 to 10 years, certainly we don't have a crystal ball, but this shows you what it is today. But really what it does is it provides the structure and the expectations for why. So we provided 3 options for that long-term range. We are also recommending that you have a funding readiness sort of project portfolio or shelf that would include these. So when the opportunities come, you've got a preliminary outline of these types of facilities. Option number 1, indoor sports and special events facility. This is, as I said, the 1.9 million potential participants within the 4-hour drive time. This would serve all of them. What we would recommend here, if you were doing it today, would be between 150 and 200,000 square feet, featuring 10 basketball courts. Those are cross-lined with 20 volleyball courts, also 30 indoor pickleball courts. But then with telescopic bleachers, with additional room for meetings and event spaces, you've got the opportunity to serve meetings, events, symposiums, live entertainment we do in the facility pictured here, and everything else. So that would, in most cases, we would be targeting for you, given this market, about a break-even operation, possibly some net operating income as a profit or in the black. But the real value is $30 to $40 million of economic impact on an annual basis.
From your experience, do you have a current number on a per square foot basis, and I can multiply out and go, well, gee, that'll take X amount of dollars?
Yeah.
For an indoor facility?
For the cost? Yeah, absolutely.
60 to 80 million.
60 to 80 million.
Okay, sorry,
But no, that's okay. Today's cost, if you do the lowest that we're seeing right now for the non-event space version of this, that don't have the elevated meeting rooms and telescopic bleachers, $325 is about the lowest that we see per square foot. When you get into some of those elevated spaces, it goes to $400, and then you can brass and glass it as much as you want and spend $1,000 a square foot if you'd like. Next would be an outdoor multi-purpose field, tournament complex. We would definitely recommend synthetic turf, of course, but 12 fields would put you in high competition for regional events and some super regional events. Outdoor fields do not generate as much revenue and therefore typically don't have the same level of sustainability. A lot of complexes like this are in the red operationally, but they generate more economic impact. So creating that balance of what financial sustainability versus new people into the market, new heads in beds, and new spending in your hotels, restaurants, retail, entertainment, that would all be part of this. But we would say that this is a $35 to $48 million investment, so lower level investment. Operationally, probably going to lose some money, might make a little bit of money by the time it's fully mature on an annual basis, but then the economic impact range at $36 to $48 million. And then the third option is not really economic impact facing, but it's more responsive to some of the things that we heard, maybe demands and maybe opportunities for you at more of a local community recreation and wellness center. So that would be a fitness center, a pool, courts for programming, not for tournaments. But that's a $50 to $70 million investment. Those are more expensive spaces per square foot, obviously. That should, if it has fitness and a successful fitness program, should operate in the black from year one and going forward. It's not going to return very much in terms of economic impact. There won't be people coming in to spend the night for those types of activities. So finally, just wrap up with a decision framework, and I will be very fast. I know I'm a little over time, but we give you a 5-step decision framework. Again, simple, repeatable, allowing you to get ready for anything that comes your way. So we'd recommend, number 1, start with the opportunity intake sheet just to outline everything, make sure we're all on the same page. Number 2, do the quick screen. This is the preliminary information about alignment with goals, priorities, realistic site, etc. Third then would be a scorecard. This becomes, and this is, by the way, the asset prioritization matrix scoring. This is that effectively, but in an ongoing, useful way. This is particularly valuable when you're weighing multiple options at once, whether that's multiple options on the same footprint or multiple facility types in potentially different locations. Really valuable compare and contrast tool. Fourth, funding and delivery review. Do we have the money? Do we have the partnerships? Do we have the capital stack? Do we have the long-term plan for ongoing maintenance and ownership? And if it goes through all of those steps, it comes time to make a decision in step 5, next action. So 4 outcomes: do it now, advance but conditionally, put a pin on this, or just stop altogether. This is not going to go the path. Usually we would have found that out before step 5. Final piece is being ready for fast-tracked options. When you have the opportunity to work with a developer or a hospital expansion or whatever else it may be, getting ready to take advantage of that by understanding how flexible and how dynamic and how quickly you can move towards a new facility that would be a major capital cost, by looking at the funding triggers, the priority triggers, and then long-term sustainability. But this structure, with a little more definition throughout the report, really important to get you prepared to take advantage of the opportunities that will come up probably before the next 8 to 10 years, which is that longer range goal. And then finally, just annual refreshing reporting. So with that, a few minutes over. Thanks for the extra time.
Okay, for fun, watch this segue. Cody, where are you?
You ready?
Yeah. Stay put, Evan. Just let Cody show you our
Love
prep
it.
and we're ready.
Love it.
Well, this is a little more agenda-oriented as well, but I think it's a good place for it.
You just do it.
So the city has received a grant from the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, and it is to build a skate park. We applied about a year ago, and this is really a chance to create a legacy facility that we have never had an accommodation for this user type in our park system. They're very low maintenance, and what we have found is skaters take care of their facilities really well. So we're really excited about it. The location is on the Sportsplex campus. It's just south of Lynn Lane, just east of the entrance road. And Joel, you can flip over one. This is a schematic we have put together. We're not skate park designers, but this is the idea. This is about a 10,000 square foot facility. And really, I've had 2 visions for this project. One is I want it to be very forward-facing, integrated into the multi-use path. If you know this area, you know that this multi-use path is well-loved and well-used. And so my thought is, as kids get out of high school, or if they take the shuttle stop across town, they can ride the skateboard or the bike right down the path, and then it peels off into the multi-use path. So it's really close to the street, very community-oriented. And then the second thing I want the facility to do is be designed for all users and age groups. One of the things I've heard is during your public input session, the people that come to those are really good at skating. And so if you heed their warnings solely, you wind up with an incredibly technical park. And so, and I do want that user group to be accommodated, because these folks will travel all over the state to skate. But I also want a place that's there toward the front of the street that's very street style, that a 6-year-old who's gotten his first skateboard can learn to skate. His mom has got a place to sit and watch him. And so the reason I'm telling you this is you need around 10,000 square feet to do that well. We have visited several across the state, and that 10,000 square foot number is where you really get into a park that's for everybody. It's a legacy type facility. And to build one of that size based on our square foot cost, we're finding is around a $400,000 budget. So a part of your first board item is to accept the grant, and then it is a commitment to an overmatch to create that $400,000 budget. It's funded out of 1%, 2% funding, and we have cleared this with the budget committee. And so that is the first approval you have. Okay.
I'm very excited about that, because I think that plays into a couple of things that you talked about, and certainly one that was on the board. And I want to give kudos to Cody, and then I'll let you go, but, or I'll let the board ask you questions. But he spent a lot of time on this grant. He developed all this, and so I'm really proud of you. I think your hard work has paid off in ways that we really probably didn't expect it to this quickly. So I just think it's wonderful. So
Sure.
congratulations.
Thank you. I do need to talk about the procurement a little bit.
Okay, well, let's wait, because these guys are gonna catch
Okay.
the plane. Let's see, do we have any questions? Evan or Cole is here, Greg's here, but Evan, since he's going to do the work on the master plan. Any
I
questions?
have a quick question. When you were looking at sustainability and the economic impact to the community, you noted that the fitness center concept was very sustainable in that it would generate revenue, and I presume that's because you would have a charge for use of those facilities, even though the community will say taxpayer funded. Why am I being charged for it? Is that?
Yeah, so first, we always recommend setting clear expectations with the community Taxpayer funding to build facilities is different from operating facilities. And so what we have, and look, we've got some centers that do a lot more than $1 million to the bottom line, but those are more like health clubs. What we're talking about is a community recreation center that's got wellness as a component that would have approachable and accessible rates for your community members. Now, we work in some communities where we're delivering a massive resident discount versus non-resident. We've got different pricing for families who are on free or reduced lunch, right? And so there are a number of ways to do it, but the expectations that I set within that are for what, and I know there's not a lot of definition there, but for what we'd expect to work here, which would not be an $80 a month adult membership. It would be a much more accessible rate.
Anyone else? Well, I want to thank you because, and I also need to highlight that Sports Facilities has done this for the city of Starkville free of charge, with the exception of Mr. Travel, because we are a customer and we appreciate what y'all did in doing this. So I really do want to highlight that as well. So thank you very much for taking the time and effort to make all that happen.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. If you don't mind, 15 seconds, because there's so many people in the room who probably haven't heard this yet. When we were here on site and started doing our stakeholder meetings, one of the things we did was we opened up a community open house. And so we had a presentation, we had folks come in, they were talking to us, and look, we had great representation from some groups. The mountain biking community came out in real force, but it may be the most memorable community vision open house that I've had in the last 4 or 5 years, because, and that's why I'm so excited to see what's on the screen right now. We had about a dozen of your teens, like high school, middle school and high school students come up. They attended, they introduced themselves, they had clearly thought about this in advance, and I think they were kind of carrying the mantle of, you know, maybe we don't have a skate park because people don't usually associate skate parks with positive behavior, but these were kids who were thinking about it from a different angle and a different level, and they showed up and were super impressive just in terms of how they carried themselves. And I think that is a really great indicator, leading indicator for something like this. Also, Cody, sorry. Also, love what Cody said about creating the learn to skate opportunity, whether that's pump track, smaller elements, but we want people to grow into the big, you know, kind of destination skate park, and the best way to do that is to get them there when they're young, in a safe environment, and let them watch people on, you know, on some of the higher level obstacles. I don't know why I'm not, my skate park head is not on right now, but some of those elements that they can't get on yet, but when they see those high schoolers skating on it, that's the aspirational view that they want. So that was more than 15 seconds, but I love this for that reason and just wanted you all to hear really impressive showing from some of your teens and probably future community leaders.
I was at some of those meetings too, and I concur completely with what you said. And to tie that back to how you presented other opportunities for us, this is a relatively low build project and a very low maintenance project. Right. So it is an easy process to go forward with.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Again, thank you so much for being here. Go catch your flight.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that was one item, and when it comes time to get to that agenda, I'll let you go over that, Cody. And then now we have an update from Rodney, and he's going to debrief on the Bryan Field application from the terminal. If you recall, last year we had the terminal application, and it came back at a percentage that was completely unaffordable for us, and so there's an opportunity to see if we can get that percentage changed so that we would not be on the hook for quite so much funding. So, Mr. Lincoln, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Board, for allowing me to show you our exciting new project again. This is a 5-year project, and this is the 5th year of that. The first year we did not apply. The second year we did, and like the mayor said, that we were awarded about half of what it would take to do it. So we didn't have the other half, so we had to let that grant go back. In year 3 and 4, we did not receive any information that we won the grant. So here we are in year 5, and this first page on the handout from y'all is a current picture of our current FBO building, our terminal building. The second picture is the outside of the street side of the terminal building. Page 3, down at the bottom, it's in 2 phases. We're just working on phase 1. Subtotal 1 is $8.979 million, and that will get the building itself fully furnished and built, and the driveway in and out from the street side. On the next page, the local matching fund, we went in at $85,000 eligible amount of the building. We have documentation to carry us up to $89,000. We haven't heard back from the FAA. Percentage. Yeah, percent, yeah, excuse me, percent, yeah, 85 and 89. And so that brings the local match down to 1.623 for city, county, and MSU. The city's portion of that would be $568,000. You already have a credit of $112,000 for the $300 and something thousand design that's been done. So that brings it down to $455,000. That number's not in your packet. $455,000, which is not needed in this calendar or this budget term. It would be October and forward. So no money would be needed now. Then there's some other pictures in there, how crowded it is at times in there. And this week, Tuesday, we found out there's other opportunities of funding that this week, on Tuesday, we found out that we were awarded a $542,000 grant to build another jet aircraft hangar, which would house 2 jets, bring in about $4,000 a month in rent, and jet sail fuels would be, I'm not sure about the jet sail, but they would buy a lot of their base fuel here. And the match to that grant, because we're going to use, we have 5 years of a bill grant at $295,000. We're going to use 2 of that, so the city's portion is $21,000 for a $1.2 million grant.
This is for the second commercial hangar, right?
Yes, the second commercial hangar. And this is from the Strategic Multimodals Funds and 2 airports this year. Same time we got the 542. 2 of them this year won $1.5 million and $1.1 million matching funds from MDOT. So if we apply for an MDOT grant, we could take our local money way down if we're awarded that, and then split it, whatever's left, by 3. So there's other opportunities, and there's some private funding that can be collected too. Or
Potential sponsorship.
Yeah,
any
that's right.
opportunities, that sort of
That's
thing
right.
They can pursue, but I wanted Rodney to update everyone on this particular application, since it looks like it might actually come within a range that we could maybe touch.
Mhm, that's right.
Instead of looking at a couple of $1 million, you're looking at
That's right.
plus or 500,000.
Yeah, if the percentage of eligibility for some reason comes back real low, or we do not, or we are not awarded the grant, we're done for this time.
For this year.
For this year, yeah. Once the runway extension and all that project is done, all the airside's done, then we can use our FAA money to build a terminal building. But until the runway, taxiway, and all that's completed, the airside, they want us to keep working on that. And this extension, and once we light it, we'll be through with the airside.
Well, and once you do that, then you suddenly have a bigger reason to justify the larger terminal.
That's right.
Because then you're going to have capacity to be able to take in those larger airplanes.
That's right.
More traffic.
Yeah,
So-
we're at 5550 on the runway length now. We're going to 6550. And if we groove it, there's anything that wants to come here can.
Mike, I know your picture's not up there anymore, but I knew you wanted to be in this. Are you have any questions or any comments you want to make?
Well,
Yeah, if you can hear me, I do have
You go
a
ahead.
few comments.
We don't see your nose anymore, but we hear you.
I turned my camera off, but Mayor, I was working through my logbook this week, or actually this past month, trying to bring my old paper logs up into my electronic logbook that we use now. And I know this pales in comparison to you, but I took my first flight on 6/21/1981 out there at that airport, and then about 2 months later, I had my private pilot license. So I'll be a 45-year pilot this year. And again, I know that doesn't compare to you, but that's still, I've been around the airport a long time.
All that means that I'm
so
old, John. I started out on grass and not on pavement, so go ahead.
I've done a little grass too, but it's not real fun. But we've had some good operators through the years or managers through the years, and some that were, I'll just say we're okay. But the group we got out there now really do a great job. Rodney and Kerry and Rusty, Rodney's team, and then, and I can't say enough about the airport board too. Of course, that's city, county, and MSU. But I go to those airport board meetings when I'm in town, and I mean, they really have the best for that airport in mind, and they agonize over stuff, and they, the way they go after these grants and stuff. And I mentioned earlier, I'm sitting up here at Rogers, Arkansas. This is home of Walmart, and I was flying back up here in the 80s for Garin, and I've seen what they've done with this facility. Walmart actually took the airport over. Now we're not looking up to have a Walmart in Starkville, but anybody that comes in that we're recruiting, they're more than likely, if it's a big industry, they're going to be coming into the airport, and that's our first impression is how we, for industry that comes in. So again, I just want to commend Rodney and his group, what they've done, and I'm hoping we can put this thing together. Of course, get more money would help also. But thank you, Rodney, and for what you guys have done on this.
Thank you too.
Okay, thanks, Monty.
I just was, same thing Mike said. Y'all, I went, what was it, Monday that I went and saw you at the airport? What y'all done is impressive. So hats off, because y'all are doing a good job over there.
Well, we'll
Thank
go
you.
ahead and call out the two that are in the room. Kerry has been a major feature of our airport for, I won't even say how many years, but for
Here we won't tell.
quite some time. I'm not telling either. And then Rusty, of course, is here as well. And Mike's right, the entire team has been huge, and Rodney's heart is at that airport, so he may be a 20-hour employee, but he's a 100% on-time lover of the airport, and I think we benefit greatly by his love of Georgia and Brian. So thank you.
Yes, well, thank y'all very much.
Any other questions? All right.
The only thing we need at this time is maybe a letter of commitment from the city for this, because we don't know the numbers. And we'll get them, once we find out the numbers, we'll figure it out. And I'm doing the same presentation Monday for the supervisors to get their letter of commitment. So if we could, and that goes along with, if the grant hits.
When do you need that letter?
Carrie, when do we need our letter of commitment?
Well, we already have the university letter.
Yes, we do.
And it's a letter of commitment, letter of support.
I can
whatever.
easily do a letter of support.
It has no dollar numbers in it, no dollar numbers.
Okay.
So you need a letter of support, not
You did
commitment.
something along the line of what Dr. Keenum did.
I don't know that I've seen his. Would you send me his?
Mm-hmm, I will.
Okay, all right, well, let me take a look at it, okay?
Okay, thank y'all.
Okay, thank you, everyone. All right, I know you get to go, so see if we can't roll through this. 2 sets of minutes, Mr. Huskerson, those good? Can you do 2 sets of those? Also, I need to make, I need to say it today because it won't matter on Tuesday, but we will have the holiday is Monday, and so we will have citywide pickup. Mr. Smiley is nodding at me, good. Citywide pickup on Tuesday. So for those of you who may be tuned into this particular Facebook, we are going to be on vacation on Monday, and then we will be doing a citywide trash pickup on Tuesday. So please take note. We will have some employee introductions, that remains the case, we have 3, I believe. And we will, no public appearances, but we have several public hearings. And one of them is the second and final public hearing for the, I presume, public hearing for the consideration of the adoption of alcohol ordinance. We will then, it is up for consideration, so whatever the board decides to do at that point in time, but there will be one more public hearing, so nothing new about that one. Rezoning, Daniel, would you like to come give us a brief?
Yes, the rezoning is kind of a continuation of a plat that was approved back in April. It's behind Cotton Crossing and 611 Squirrel. They're selling a portion of their rear yard. Correct. Selling a portion of their rear yard to add it to Cotton Crossing, so it's fixing the zoning so that they can do the use they're planning on. And that was recommended for approval unanimously.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was unanimous?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And then the special exceptions for Barnett?
Yes, that's an existing structure in a backyard, and they just want to intensify the use a little by adding an electrical panel to it, and that was recommended unanimously for approval.
And all of these, obviously, public hearings, so there's nothing for us to sit on or not. Okay, and then the RV park?
Yes, that was recommended unanimously for approval with 3 conditions that were added by, or recommended by P&Z relating to screening from the street, covenants restricting accessory structures, and shielding outdoor lighting.
Okay. And then your UDC, you have heard anyone? or-
Haven't heard from anyone. The only change from this round to last round is in the architectural variety standards section. I kind of changed some of the wording for clarity. Didn't change any requirements, but then also added some graphics for clarity.
Okay, all right, we'll obviously be looking at that again. And then we have 2 public hearings on 2 locations that are under the 21-19-11 consideration, which is 515 Dr. Martin Luther King Drive and then 794 Old Yankee Road. So we'll be looking at those when we get to the board. The next item we have is, Dr. Keenum asked me if I would, or if we would do a resolution in support of his bill grant request, which is to do the land bridge going across Highway 12. It's part of their Madelon project, and I would normally do a letter, but they believe a resolution would be much more impactful. So I felt sure that the board would be agreeable for a resolution supporting Dr. Keenum's efforts to get that bill grant. So we do consent for that one? Okay, thank you. And then contract with Restaurant Tyler, this is to lease the sidewalk space, just like we did for the camps on Atkerson Way, as well as the area on the public parking lot. So the only difference between this one and the camps, to which it was most similar, is that the camps was 15-year lease because they had constructed the little outdoor cabanas, et cetera, and these are going to be patio furnishings and that sort of thing. So we took it to 5 years with an opportunity to extend. So I'm sorry. Yeah, 5 year with a 5-year option to extend. So consent for that one? Okay. And then we have, Daniel, this is the final plat. You want to talk about that one a little
Yeah,
bit?
this is something that came before the board previously and was approved, but it was still flex steel site where they had to store. And previously it was just 2 lots, it was track 1 and track 2. They wanted to come back and replat it to add a track 3, which is on the western side of the flex steel site, but on Pollard Road. And then they're also adding access to track 2 from Pollard Road.
And this is the church, right? Is this the
Church is one of the lots, it would be track 1, then the other 2 lots I think are still part of the current owners.
Okay, all right. Any concerns about that final plat?
Developer reviewed it, they went through the whole cycles, we had one condition to add to it relating to the sidewalk bonding, and I know Cody has spoken to him about that, so everything's good.
Okay, all right, consent for that one. Okay. Engineering, Cody, we talked about Safe Park again.
Yeah, this is the most fun part. I'll try to be brief.
This must be about the money then.
Well, the first item is for the accepting the grant and then the overmatch. The second 2 are related to the procurement, so I need to drill in just a little bit here. When we typically build a project in the city, we have a 2-phase process. You have the design, which is by an engineer, and then you bid it, and you have a contractor that builds the plans. Okay, it's 2 phases. There exists a procurement type called design build that consolidates those 2 entities into one group. So what I'm saying is you have one group that both designs and builds the facility. You see this with highly specialized esoteric projects like hospitals, but a skate park certainly qualifies. As it turns out, engineers don't know a lot about building skate parks, and neither do our contractor counterparts. So there are special firms that travel the U.S., and this is all they do, okay? Fortunately, there are state and federal provisions to follow this procurement type. You have to do a series of steps, and so we've read through those. I've highlighted everything, and the first step is we have to have across our minutes from the governing body a declaration that the design build procurement is in the best interest of the community. And so for this project, that's a slam dunk, because design build will give us the best product, the quickest product, and the cheapest product. Okay, so we need to say this is best for the community. That's the second item. The third item is how do we actually procure these services? How do we get these people to Starkville? So this very long approval gets me 95% there. What's going to happen is I need permission to advertise for a statement of qualifications. This is where any skate park firm in the U.S. can submit to us and tell us why they're the best. It's about their company, it's about their previous projects. It's nothing to do with Starkville, okay? A selection committee of internal staff members will rank those based on objective, predefined criteria, and we'll shortlist the group to 2 to 5 firms, and then we will give them an invite-only request for proposals. This is where those shortlisted firms will give us a proposal of conceptual design, a budget, a timeline, and then the same committee will we will recommend the best firm and negotiate a contract. Both of those items will come back to the board. So what I'm telling you is I'm not going to sign you up for any money or pick a consultant until you've had a chance to approve it. Okay. The last bullet point, I need to pass this out, is in the state law that references design build, there's a requirement that requires the contractor to be domiciled in the state. This is not possible because there are not any. They don't have any in the state. And so Rob Robertson's name is on the bill. I've talked to him about this. The money is federal. It comes from Federal Highway Administration routed through the state. And so we're actually subject to federal procurement laws. Federal procurement laws say you cannot create a condition that makes an unfair open market for proposers. And in this case, that law would do that. We can't say you have to be domiciled in the state because there aren't any. So I've talked to Rob, I've showed him the conflicts in the codes. He has told me that he is good with our language. And what this language does, I've passed out, replaces a sheet in my statement of qualifications. Okay. So there's a lot going on here, and this is necessary for the process. But the design build has unilaterally been the way I've been recommended to follow for skate parks. We've talked to Laurel, I've talked to Hernando, I've talked to Crystal Springs, I've talked to probably 6 different communities who have done this. This is the way you build skate parks. So it's a lot of information. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those. And if you need to read through and ask me Tuesday night, that's fine as well. So that's what we're trying to do.
So the first 3 are all skate park related, is that right? Meet the criteria that you have to.
Yep, accept the grant, make the declaration, and then get the people here.
Okay, can we go consider all those items?
Thank you.
Yes, I love that. Okay, next one is yours also. This is ADA improvements.
This is in conjunction with street improvements. This meets our Department of Justice requirement to fix non-curb ramped areas.
Okay.
We do this in conjunction with that project.
Okay, that's it for that one. And then a change order for the Main Street project. Chris, is Chris going to,
Yes, ma'am.
that one, would you be so kind as to share?
Yeah, so this change order, if y'all notice in front of the courthouse,
I'm going to bring you up here where we can.
You hear better?
You can be heard.
so this change order, the big portion of it, if y'all look at it, is communication conduits. If you look in front of the courthouse, there's one lone telephone pole left there. So what this does, it makes it where we can take that down, and then there's Max South AT&T lines above it. So now there will be no overhead at all. While we're doing that, and we already have the contractor here putting the communication lines there, we're also going to do one for us. So then this way we'll have a fiber conduit down to the police station, so we'll be able to tie in those guys, and then it also ties in, or we'll have the conduit to tie into City Hall. It doesn't put our fiber in it, but it has the backbone for it, so then once we start pulling, we'll be able to pull to all these locations at once.
And that's the total of the 208,000?
Well, the 208,000, that's the big chunk of it. Then also there's a little bit of landscaping. The beds that are on this side weren't tied into our new system under the original design, so we're tying the first bed will be tied into it. And then it's also our center roundabout one is fixing it to spray irrigation versus drip. So for our annual beds, it'll make it to where they'll grow better. Also, because of our light poles were procured ourselves because we used the Main Street Association money, kind of a gap between the two were the hanging baskets because they weren't in that contract because we didn't buy them from the light guys and they weren't in the Econ's contract, so it's putting those as well. So it's mainly landscaping and communication conduits, those 2 things.
And then street department advertising for the reverse auction for the bulldozer. Nothing about that one, that's just, okay. All right. Consent for that one?
Consent.
Okay.
I'll take over.
How about, we know the claims document, how about the financials?
Consent.
Consent for that, all right, excellent. Well, unless Webb had something to add to that, we will assume there's nothing special that we need to know, so. All right, HR, we have disciplinary action from Mr. Smiley. We get consent for that one,
Consent.
okay? And then 2 hirings for the police department, these are pre-academy, consent for those.
Consent.
And
Kyle, you're
then,
sitting right next to her.
huh?
Told Kyle he's sitting right next to you, no, I'm picking.
You're welcome. Okay.
Exercise your power.
Yeah, go right ahead, go right ahead. And we have the American 250 Mississippi grants that the parks is going to apply for. So consent for that one, that will be improving our July celebrations. All right, thank you. Everybody gets a turn. Everybody gets a turn.
It's always just.
William, you're up next.
I'm ready.
All right, under police, we have an application for the alcohol grant and then the seatbelt grant.
Consent.
You're both-
That's great. I
both
love
of
it. I
those.
love them both.
Okay.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Thank you.
So these are typical things that come before us every year. And then we have Here's less typical, this is a police progression plan, and I had Nav, who was slated to be with us because he has worked, before he left us, and since he left us, he has worked diligently with the chief and with Stacy on putting this progression plan together, and it was supposed to be coming to us in January, but we did not make that timeline. So this is the supposed progression plan. Do you wish to provide a little bit of information, Chief?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that'd be great, thank you. Oh, we got a handout too. Okay.
Handout, it's, basically, it kind of lays out the criteria that we're there. To take from the mayor's words, Board, yeah, to use an analogy, Nav Ashford did a remarkable job in working with us closely on addressing in law enforcement retention and recruiting issues, right? City attorney. And we realized where and how we were losing personnel, and he had already kind of implemented a progression plan kind of in numbers. This is an update or formalization for a permanent structure of being able to return the investment of when you have people that, or let's say that Alderwoman Sistrunk is a more senior sergeant. She's been in investigations. She has all this specialty training of how to deal with child
Don't let her
crime.
carry a gun.
Really?
I don't know, it depends on the situation.
I watched you get mad. Please don't let her carry a gun.
But for that, let's say she's in the force for 7 or 8 years as that sergeant, and then you get a new sergeant that comes along. That merit is not the same, right? And so what we did is we tried to bridge in our cultural things that we think are truly important. You will see in there one that we've been adamant for, that we learned from our fire department partners, be in shape. For mental health purposes, for what we're seeing out there, being in shape, workman's comp, all those things that come in. Secondly, you see a really heavy structure on ICS, incident command structure training. How do you respond to critical incidents? Are we getting that training necessary? Put it on the officer themselves to go and get that. And lastly, leadership. You'll see a lot of that in there because when you put on a badge and a gun, you show up as senior, you're expected to do that. Most had already been budgeted and making that pay currently. It's a title change, basically, from a 1 and 2. It was budgeted for the 2026. It's a permanent type of structure to allow that separation, and what we're asking for is July 10th. That gives us the level of Sergeant 2, Lieutenant 2, Corporal 2, and it falls within the 2026 budget that will work so closely with Web on, and a credit to a new HR Director, Stacy, who picked this up. She wasn't the designer of the trail. She didn't build the bridges. She picked it up from Nav and worked with us closely on it.
Okay. Webb, anything you want to add to that? I assume you were able to hear the chief.
Yes, ma'am. I hope y'all can hear me. But,
You can.
yeah, it's budget neutral for fiscal year 26 with the delayed date.
Okay. All right, thank you. And Stacy, anything? There you are. Okay. All right. Any questions of the chief? Okay. So this would fit in the effective date of July the 10th.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So consent for that one? Okay. And Mr. Kemp, last but not least.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have low quote for replacement equipment for the water treatment facility.
Yes, ma'am. This is to replace some chemical feed pumps and saturators for the water treatment.
Okay, have they reached the end of useful life?
Yes, ma'am. We're having problems with a good number of the pumps require almost daily maintenance to keep them running.
Okay.
And this one also, we're going to propose to buy the same type of pump for all of them so we can have availability of parts and easier replacement.
Okay, and still, all that is still being made?
Ma'am?
All that's still being produced?
Yes, ma'am.
We're not buying pumps that are about to be.
Right, exactly. Yeah, buying
Exactly.
more modern, exactly. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
all right. Consent for that?
I do, because it's fluoride pumps, and I know the PSC with the letter that they sent out, are we gonna continue to treat with fluoride? I mean, do we know?
As far as I'm concerned, we are.
before we spend 35,000, that's something we can.
Well, Mr. Kemp, would you like to go into that explanation
I was just
of the
gonna talk
necessity
to
of
him.
doing this?
We are, it is for fluoride, chemical feed pumps and saturators. We are required, we have been treating the water with fluoride for a long period of time, I'm not sure how long. Our permit requires it, we test for it on a regular basis, that we have to submit samples to the Department of Health. So we have to continue to do that to meet our permit requirements. If the board chooses to go away from fluoride in the future, there is a process to do that with the Department of Health. That involves some public notification and some different forms that we have to submit to them. But it's a pretty lengthy process. It'll take probably several months to go through that. So if and when the board wants to take that up and consider it at some point in the future, we can certainly do that. But in the meantime, we need to be able to continue to meet the permit requirements, would be my recommendation.
Okay. All right, you want to keep that off consent? Okay. All right, so we have a low quote from Hollis Electric for replacement of the HVAC unit. Any issues about that we need to know?
The unit's 23 years old. So.
Okay, well, that would be about time. It's lived longer than it probably expected to. And then we execute a contract renewal with Kempro for herbicide spraying for utility. This is our annual contract.
Kempro has done it for the last 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
They do all the easements as well as electric substations, any other areas where we're trying to prevent vegetation overgrowth.
Okay. Is that for that one?
That's it.
Until somebody says no. And then advertise for bids for water well number 9 construction project.
This is a new well that was identified in our overall evaluation report that we needed to think about a new well. We've identified the operations center as the best site according to our engineers, simply for its proximity to the transmission line that runs on the west side of that property. And it also will allow for the ability to add additional well number 10 in the future. So have one water treatment plant at that site with 2 different wells in the future. And I think we're, according to the overall evaluation, we're probably 10 years away from that well number 10. So trying to plan for that in the future. This would go ahead and advertise for bids and try to get a well driller on a contract and on their schedule, more importantly, so we can hopefully achieve this by the end of the calendar year, have it online.
Into this calendar?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I thought we were looking at maybe 2 years out for you to be able to get somebody to dig a well.
Right, Neil Schaefer's helping us with this. They've kind of done some preliminary discussions with well drillers in the area that would do this type of work, and feel like if we can kind of, obviously this is fast tracking it as much as we can, but feel like if we can go ahead and get it, the next step would be to get a well driller, do a test well, see what the depth is, and then do a permanent well. We feel like we can achieve that by the end of this calendar year.
Okay, all right. Consent for that one?
Yes.
Okay. And just to note, we have received word from Congressman Guest that we've gotten $1.5 million STAG grant authorization. So I'm very excited about that, and that will go toward wastewater. I'm guessing wastewater or water, I'm not sure, but I was told wastewater, so I'm going to presume wastewater solely. But when you run into Congressman Guest, continued thanks to him for that, because this is the second time around that they've been supporting us for our needs for this infrastructure. So we certainly appreciate that. So any questions of Mr. Kemp? All right, that takes us to the end of the road. We will have an executive session, as y'all are aware, based on the last board meeting. So we will be doing that. And a couple of things. One, everybody remember we've got the meeting on the 17th at 2 o'clock. We'll be up here, which is a concurrent meeting with the Board of Supervisors. So looking forward to doing that. That should be very interesting. It's been years since we've done that. So I think that's a good thing for us to plan on doing this very regularly. And then we've got baseball and softball this weekend.
Yes.
And basketball. And basketball, but people in town.
Yes.
People in town, it was going to be softball and baseball. It was exciting. Our softball team hasn't lost a game yet.
Nationally ranked.
And they're nationally ranked. And our baseball team is actually nationally ranked. And they haven't won a game, they haven't played games. But it's very exciting, and it's lovely to have people back in town for events. So everybody everybody put on your best behavior and smile at them, welcome to town. Got Papa Sprinkles, Ooh, yay, okay, good. We'll show them Southern hospitality. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. We do have a holiday on Monday, so please enjoy.
Thank you.